Hello everyone and welcome to yet another Skype interview, and today I'm really excited because actually I'm getting teamed up on by the looks of it. I'm speaking to two gentlemen from the oldest brewery in the world, Weihenstephan. I've got with me actually, good morning gentlemen, I've got Thorsten Heiser, who is the sales export manager and the gentleman that I understand is responsible for the beer that we're going to be tasting today. And I think if you look on the screen you'll see exactly what we're letting ourselves in for. Looking forward to it. And we've also got Johannes Weiss, who is the export manager at Weihenstephan. Hello gentlemen, thanks very much for joining me here at BeerSweden.
Good morning. Hello, the pleasure is on our side.
Pleasure. Now listen, I can see from my screen here that you've already got your bottle of Infinium, and that is the beer that we're going to be trying in the next few minutes. And I can see you've also got your branded glasses, you've got your champagne ice bucket. I'd like to say actually over here in Sweden, I've been pretty busy too, and I've got exactly the same as you. Look at this, fantastic, totally branded up. Well done gentlemen. Now listen, this is a beer that has been a talking point in the beer world actually. It's come to the Systembolaget it was about a month ago or so. I haven't tried it yet, so I'm really looking forward to it. It's called Infinium. It's very unusual in terms of its style and very unusual in terms of its branding. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Why, the story behind Infinium?
Actually, the start of Infinium was in your lovely country, actually, when I was on a business trip with our export director. His name is Marcus Engert. We visited our importer in Sweden, Galatea, and actually we were about to introduce our Vitus, which is the wheat beer bock. That was the time when our importer says, well, nice to have a new beer, so what's next? What was pretty unusual for us actually, as we are kind of a very traditional brewery, and so we were lucky that we finally had a new beer out, and now they were asking about another thing. And they had very good contacts to Sam Adams Brewery, and that is how the contact came. So we talked to them and talked with Galatea again, and then we had the idea to produce a beer together, a cooperation in the beer business, which was supposed to bring out a complete new style of beer, and that is the reason of the name actually. Infinium means going beyond, create something new, going across the borders, but still stay within the purity law from 1516.
Okay.
And that was the
the challenge
of the beer. Yeah,
that must be the challenge there. I mean, if I can ask you, Johannes, I mean, basically what we have here, everyone, is we have a collab brew. Okay, so we've got the oldest brewery in the world working together with Samuel Adams, which obviously is the name that everyone knows. Boston Beer Company is the brewery behind it, and basically they've got together and they brewed this beer. But the cool thing is, it's actually, we've got Germany, we've got America, and we're brewing a beer together that's actually a Belgium Strong Ale in style. Is that right?
Yeah, that's basically right, yeah. But according to the Reinheitsgebot. And
exactly.
That was the challenge to see for the Americans how to proceed with the Reinheitsgebot.
Okay, and can you explain just briefly, for people that may not know, about the Reinheitsgebot? What exactly is that?
The Reinheitsgebot is a purity law from 1516. And it says that only water, malt, hops and yeast can be used to produce beer, and nothing more added. No sugars to raise the alcohol content, nothing more. Just those 4 ingredients.
So this is actually, so what you've done is you've taken these purity laws from 1516, and you've tried to stretch the boundaries, as it were. What you can do within those laws, and that's really what Infinium's all about. Is that a fair summary? I'll tell you what I'm going to do while we're talking. I'm going to actually uncork, because I'm getting a bit thirsty now that we've spoken so much about it. I'm going to uncork my bottle, and let's put some of this in the glass.
I guess you go for the same then.
Yeah, exactly. You join me too. This is a virtual drinking session. Now there should be a lot of carbonation in this thing. Lovely, little bit of gun smoke here. I don't know if you can see that on the screen. Absolutely lovely. I have to say, gentlemen, that the actual branding of this is fantastic. It's very, when I first saw it, I thought it was very Moulin Rouge. I can imagine Christina Aguilera, you know, drinking this just before she goes on stage. I'm gonna pour some of this up.
Nice
Wow.
imagination.
We've got an awful lot of head on this one. A lot of effervescence. Not very well poured, gentlemen. Look at that. Look, you've done a far better job than me. But tell me, what exactly has gone into this beer? Okay, we know that it's the 4 ingredients of the Weihenstephan, but what exactly has gone into the beer, and how was it made?
It is actually a completely new way to make a beer. It has an ABV of 10.5%, which is quite unusual for a beer. And that was one of the big challenges as well. It's hard to get a beer with that ABV just with the 4 ingredients we were allowed to use. And so we decided to go for a champagne yeast to use in there, or a sparkling wine yeast that we used in there. And that needs to be propagated very well, that it was able, or that the yeast was able to produce alcohol out of the sugars of the raw materials. Okay. Usually the yeast of the champagne or sparkling wine yeast is specialized on different sugars, as the sugars in the beer or in the raw materials of the beer are much more complex than the sugars in the wine are. And so we had to propagate the yeast, actually our brewmaster, that the yeast can work with the sugars in the raw materials of the beer.
Okay.
And further on, we had to recreate the whole brewing process. Okay. It's not brewed like the regular beer, which is quite easy when you compare it to this product. And so everything was took apart and then put together in a complete new way.
Okay.
That's one of the secrets of the product.
Okay, so the yeast it's a special yeast just for this beer, is that right?
Not for this beer. It is a yeast that comes from the sparkling wine business. Okay. It was a little bit like I said, propagated to raise the ability to produce alcohol out of the
10.5%. Okay, so that's the yeast. What about the hops that are used in the beer?
Regular beer hops.
Regular beer hops. Do you know? Do you say which ones, or is it one of those guarded secrets?
I think that's one of the secrets.
Okay, I like secrets. You can tell me. Promise, I won't tell anyone else.
Okay.
In terms of what you do with the malts, then, can you tell me about that? What malts are in it?
Regular
beer malts. Okay, all right.
Malts as well.
I've got you. I've got you. Okay. Now, in terms of what you do with the hops, I know that it's actually they're Bavarian hops, though, right?
Yeah. Okay. Just hops from our neighborhood.
Just narrow it down. Okay, it's Bavarian hops. And in terms of what you do with the hops or with the beer itself, I understand it's dry hopped. That's right, yeah.
No, our version is not dry hopped.
Oh, your version's not dry hopped. Okay. Yeah. Now, talking of that, there are 2 versions of this, right? Because there's a version that obviously that you guys at Weihenstephan have brewed, and there's a version that's actually been brewed by Samuel Adams or Boston Beer over in the US. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
We have our version, which is fermented in pressurized tanks.
Okay.
We have the ability to do so. Our partners in the United States are not able, as they don't have pressurized tanks.
Okay.
So they did a bottle conditioning with the product, what made the business for us a little bit easier, as we don't have to fill it several times, but we can keep it in our storage tanks and then bottle it right after the second fermentation.
Okay, so this is still bottle conditioner. So this is, the similarities between champagne here, I'd actually say, Johannes, are pretty obvious in terms of when you pour it up, you're getting this very effervescent. I mean, I don't know if you can see, people, the bubbles here, but there's a lovely carbonation to this beer. A beautiful head on my one, actually, that's built very nicely, and it's sticking around. And it does look, and I have to say, just initially from smelling, you're getting a lot of similarities with champagne, with sparkling white wine, yeah? Was that the kind of the idea?
Yeah, it was kind of. We wanted to create a strong beer, but still a comparable light beer. A lot of people are used to strong beers, even from German breweries, with this typical, I usually say, liquid bread taste. It's strong, what the season is right now for as well, the strong beer season. But we want to create a light beer, a sparkling beer, and a refreshing beer, and a fruity beer. That is what our goal was, and what we reached. Just give it a try.
Let's give it a try, absolutely. I'm trying to give it a whirl because I normally try and do that. This is actually quite difficult in one of these glasses, but I did it anyway. And I'm getting a lot of stuff, but tell me, what do you get? What was the plan? What were you hoping to get?
As I said, a light product, a nice combination, a new style of a beer, a surprising beer actually, something completely new, especially something completely new due to the purity law, what we have to brew according to in Germany. And there are a lot of Belgian beers on the market that are packed in these bottles.
Yeah.
We wanted to show the beer connoisseurs and the beer lovers that there is an opportunity or a new way in brewing in Germany as well, and that the German beers are not limited to the already known beer styles like the Pilsner, the wheat beer, the lager, and so on.
Well, I must say, gentlemen, when you smell it, it's definitely, it's not German that you automatically think of at all. I mean, it's definitely a Belgian vibe to this thing for me. You're getting a lot of nice sort of citrus, I think. It's quite sharp, and you get a dryness as well to both the smell and to the flavour. But there's lots of lovely sort of yeasty, peppery sorts of fruit to the beer. So it's a very, very nice nose to this. And again, I have to go back to champagne. I have to go back to sparkling white wine. It really does have a lot of those qualities in it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. We had it tested by a beer sommelier, and she said she gave us some food pairings, some professional wordings regarding the taste, the smell. Yeah. And she was surprised. What she told us is that she was surprised about the complexity of the product and that it goes very well with a lot of different food, for example. You can drink it as like you usually drink a Prosecco as an aperitif. Yeah. You can drink it with light food. You can drink it with soups. You can drink it with, for example, chicken or with light meals. Yeah. But also with beef, for example, as a nice opposite.
Contrast. Yeah.
It works very well with sweets as well, like sweet desserts. She told us creme brulee. We had it yesterday with
yes, I can see you smiling there, Johannes. I can see creme brulee is one of my favourite desserts. I can drink anything with that, but this, I can see it working. It's got a little sort of, it's got that little bit of acidity, almost citrus sort of edge to it, which I'm sure would work beautifully with anything like that. You know, creamy and cut through a lot of that sort of creaminess really, really well. Stunning stuff. Are you pleased with it?
Yes, we are very pleased with it. And what I personally like, it's not as sweet as you may expect it to be.
No, exactly.
That's the only thing I like.
The dryness actually does come in very, very nicely and sweep away some of the sweetness that's up there in the front. So it's, as you say, it's an amazingly complex beer. Now at 10.5%, we're drinking this fairly fresh. What's the recommendation for aging this style of beer?
That is a good question. At the process of developing the product, we were thinking about what we are supposed to put on as a best before date. Yeah. The Americans went for no best before date on, but they put a recommendation on there that it might be consumed within 12 to 15 months. I think that is what they did on. Okay. This one was bottled, this version and what you have as well was bottled in, I think in October last year. Yeah. And we did several testings, of course, that's necessary, isn't it?
Absolutely. One must test.
And we actually can't taste any aging in it.
Okay.
It is still very fresh. It is still as full of complexity and full of aromas. Yeah. And so we think that it might be a good product to store in. Okay. Our master told us that the longer the beer stays in the tank, the more stable it gets. And as it is, it was produced for almost 2 months. It took almost 2 months till the beer is done. Yeah. So it will most likely be stable for 2 to 3 years. You can't say yet. Yeah. Our best before that we put on is 12 months. At the first batch, we will go for 15 months at least. At the second batch, which will be filled soon. But we think that it might be good even a year or 2 or 3 afterwards. We can't tell it for sure because we don't have any experience with it, but when you have a look on the Belgian beers, that most of them don't have a best before date as well. So we think...
You think it's going to age well? It's going to age. The only way to find out, really, gentlemen, is to buy a bottle, I suppose, and find out, yeah?
Just wanted to say, I'll see you again.
Talking of which, obviously Infinium is at the Systembolaget now, everyone. It costs 179 crowns and 50 öre. I believe there's still some stock out there. I know that a lot of bottles have been sold, but I still think you can get your hands on them. I think it's a fantastic beer. I love these types of beers because they kind of, you know, they break the mold about how people think about beer and how people drink beer, especially because I think this is a great beer to have with food. Actually, as you said, Thorsten, and that's one of the things I think that we're seeing more and more of here in Sweden, people combining food and beer, which is great, and this just is perfect timing. So I would like to say congratulations on producing this collab beer, and really say, I'll finish off with my customary toast, as it were, just to say cheers and beers to you two.
Cheers!
Skål!
Thanks for joining me. Or skål!